Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Strategy Show, Ownership Edition. Glad to be back. Missed yesterday. I'm sick as a dog, but that's not why. We actually had to do a food challenge for my daughter who's got allergies to, everything outside of air. But we're here. We're going to make it happen. I told Neil Orfield, who's with me, at PlayerQDFS on Twitter, I'm at Laffy_D, that I took a heroic cocktail of supplements and everything else to get me right and power me through the day. So we're here, man. What's going on?
Michael Jordan flu game is what I'm hearing. That's what's going on with Laffy right now.
I think so. Yeah.
This is going to be your best performance. We're going to win all the money this week because you powered through for the people. And I'm glad this is the ownership show, but this is also the first look show for you this week because you weren't on yesterday.
For sure. It's weird too, because usually that one sets me up for the week. I'm assuming this one sets you up for the week,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. This is really the first show that I do. I don't look at a ton before this.
So I put a little bit more into it than usual. Usually, you get the first look and then we get ownership and you can kind of compare the two. Still watch the first look show from yesterday too. I'm sure it was great. Eric, not as good, obviously. The show, not Eric, but I'm sure the show wasn't as good. But I'm sure it was also very solid. Eric, appreciate you filling in for me, man, with Ben. So check that out if you haven't done so yet. Sterling, Laffy, you sound like you're dying. Thank you. I said I was sick on the Thursday Night Football video I did yesterday on the Odd Shopper channel, and someone goes, "We don't care if you're sick. Give us the picks." So that's what we're working with, Neil.
Typical. That's pretty typical, isn't it? I also want to get your take. So you missed a lively discussion with Adam and Josh before the show where they were saying that they think that Davante Adams actually, I don't want to misrepresent what they said here, but I think they were saying that he had the right to murder that cameraman. Is that your take as well?
What?
Do you even know what I'm talking? The Davante Adams?
No, hold on. I might not pay attention to pop culture, Neil.
Okay. All right.
But I pay attention to football. Why? Because
that wasn't actually their take. I'm over exaggerating their take, but they were saying that he wasn't in the wrong. It was right after an emotional loss. It was a tough spot for Davante Adams.
Control your emotions, man. I hate that. Same thing with Draymond Green. The guy came. Anybody defending, and this is probably not a take that people expect to hear from me, because I like to, I like to rile people up from time to time, but Draymond Green, that's a scumbag move.
Oh, for sure. Punching your teammate. Yeah. Come on.
To be like, no, Poole pushed him. No, dude, he stalked him, came up, Poole pushed him off of him, and then he took a right hook to his chin. Come on. And with Davante Adams, so what are we saying? Like, he was pissed off and the guy got in the way. Listen, the guy screwed up. Yeah. He screwed up. But, and first of all, I'm also 100% against this guy suing Davante Adams as well.
I'm on the same page as you. I think he clearly handled it wrong. He played, you can't shove a guy who gets in your way, but at the same time, I'm not going to sue Davante Adams for shoving me unless he has medical expenses or his camera was broken or something. Then sure, you sue for him to pay those expenses. But other than that, what are you suing for?
Exactly. This guy shows up to work in a neck brace next week. Everyone's going to go, okay, pal. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Bullshit. I think Davante Adams was 100% wrong. He knows he was wrong.
Yeah.
He tweeted it out. You know what I mean? And I don't think this guy should be suing either. So I take a nuanced approach to this one. Certainly not to appease anyone. I don't care about that. But when I looked at it, I go, yeah, okay, you're pissed off. A guy got in your way, shouldn't have done it, right? Like, he shouldn't have gotten your way. You were walking off. You're upset. Totally understandable. I get that. I'd be pissed off too if I were Davante Adams, right? You'd probably rather be back in the frozen tundra. I get it. But that's just, people make mistakes in life. He made one. The camera guy made one by accidentally walking in his way. That's a silly take to assume that it's cool to just throw somebody to the ground. That's where I'm at.
Well, so Fidel Delgado says, that's actually assault, right? So yeah, I believe it's actually a battery because he actually shoved him. So he does have the right to sue him. I'm not saying he doesn't have the right to sue him, but when you're suing for torts for assault and battery, you have to prove damages as well. So I don't know what he can say his damages are, but you are correct that he does have the right to sue Davante Adams. That's a different question than whether, you know, I would, or whether I think that it's the approach that I would take. But, you know, that's the approach he's taking. Sure, it's fine, just not what I would do. Yeah,
I'm not looking at this as, okay, is it assault in the sense, I mean, by technical terms, sure, I guess so. But I also think that it's just a clear, unless, right, like you said, unless it comes out that, you know, this guy is, you know, he's in bad shape, that would be different if you actually can't work. But I don't know. I guess the cynical side of me and the skeptical side of me goes, yeah, this guy's probably going to say he's injured. He's going to, and I could be completely wrong. I don't actually know, you know, take off work and then sue and try and make a quick, you know, upper 6 figures, 7 figures off of one of the highest paid players in the league. So what you and I think would be silly not to assume that, not to kind of attribute some motive to that, right? When you consider, when you look at past situations, history would suggest that people are going to try and get money out of people, out of famous players and people that do stuff like that.
Yeah, it seems likely, although I haven't been following closely. I don't actually know if the guy is planning to sue Davante Adams. I know he filed criminal charges. I don't even know if that was, you know, maybe the police came to him and asked him to fill out a criminal report. We don't actually know what this guy is doing at this point. But yeah, it would not surprise me if he tries to get money out of Davante Adams.
Right. Davante was wrong. Yeah, I don't know. Isn't it so? Last thing I'll say on this, and then we'll get to a crazy Millie Maker winning lineup. And then we'll talk about week 6 ownership. Appreciate you guys being with us, by the way. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you dealing with the voice today. It's all up here. It's all in the chest. It's everywhere. But we'll get through this. That Sudafed's going to power me through the day, Neil. I'm telling you right now. But hit the thumbs up. Yeah, 2024 with almost 200 watching. Atone for your sins, my friends. Help us appease the YouTube overlords and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. What I was going to say is, I forget. Guess it wasn't that important. Oh, I know what it was. If this stuff were to happen in any other, and I know people don't like this argument, but it is funny to look at it from this angle, through this lens. If this type of stuff were to happen in any other field, right? Any other occupation, like the Dre punch or the Davante Adams thing, it would be so much different.
I mean, you just be fired immediately. Like, your company is not, unless you're like a real big shot, you're really bringing in a lot of money or something. If you're an everyday employee, you're being fired for shoving somebody at the workplace for sure.
Yeah. Right. I mean, Draymond Green, I don't know the whole backstory to it. And I'm not the guy out there advocating for him to be arrested or anything like that. He would be 100% arrested if he did that, you know, in an office building.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Right. So it is a totally different set of standards. Totally different when it comes to professional athletes.
But it is also a very different environment. Like, we have to accept that it's not an office setting where everybody's like calm and he was clearly in the heat of the moment. He had just lost a big game, and it's a different environment. It's funny to think about. Lock
Adams up. I'm not saying you cut him from the team. You know what I mean? I'm just saying it's funny without an opinion. It's funny how much differently it's treated.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Than that. Yeah. All right. Millie Maker. Did you see the winning Millie Maker lineup?
I'm looking at it right now from your run sheet. I did see it. I forgot what it was until just now. I'm looking at it again.
So you had $3 and totally fine with that. Otten was cheap. Godwin was cheap and deservedly got a lot of ownership in that game. And then Fournette had a huge game. Nice to see that. Yeah. There was no Tom Brady. It was a Josh Allen, Gabe Davis stack, Neil, and three players from the Bucs without Tom Brady or without anybody from Atlanta. And there was no run back on the Pittsburgh side, which I actually totally understand. I was advocating for you could probably do a Buffalo stack without a run back and they just slaughter them.
I'm sort of surprised to see only one. It's a skinny stack for Josh Allen, given that Stephon Diggs did pretty well. Shakir did pretty well for his price tag. So I'm surprised to see that it was a skinny stack that won. This lineup is actually one for a different reason that I could not get to. I usually set a rule in Fantasy Cruncher, no more than 2 running back, wide receiver, or tight end from a team unless paired with quarterback. So this lineup, without having Tom Brady in there, I would not get this based on the rules that I set in Fantasy Cruncher. And I think that's generally the right approach. I think that this is a lot of players to have from one team without having the quarterback in there, especially in this case where you're paying up for a more expensive quarterback. It would make more sense to me with, if it had been Tom Brady in the lineup with 3 Bills receivers without Josh Allen, because Tom Brady is cheaper. But anyway, this is not a lineup I could have gotten to, but doesn't really matter to the person who won $1 million.
Hey, yeah. How about those Seahawks? Yo, that offense is insane right now.
Yeah, it really is.
32 points. Tyler Lockett again. Did you see the Gabe Davis catch though, where he ripped the ball out? Was it Fitzpatrick's? Whose hands? I don't know whose hands it was.
I don't know whose hands it was either. Yeah, I did. But I saw
just grown man ripped it out of his hands. Crazy lineup, but here we are. And Breece Hall down there as well. Were these all 1 o'clock starts outside of the Cowboys?
Man, now you're trying to make me remember who played in the 4 o'clock slot.
I think they were. I'm only wondering to see if this was like a pure hand. I was just checking this like pure hand build, because you can tell the pure hand builds for people that put the 1 o'clock players in this flex spot.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think we have it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
they're all 1 o'clock except Cowboys.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Could you imagine having that lineup going into the 4s and then the Cowboys drop 23 on the Rams?
And like immediately, it was like less than 2 minutes into the game, they score a defensive touchdown. Like, damn, that is pretty fortunate.
That's a wild lineup. Really,
Saul Goodman from Twitter was winning the millie at that point after the 1 o'clock games. And of course was just trying to fade these defenses, hoping that nothing big happens in the 4 o'clock games. And then within 2 minutes, the 23% owned Cowboys score a defensive touchdown. So that was pretty brutal for him.
Absolutely. All right. You ready to talk some running backs here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Hey, still 3 free days too. NFL Plus Platinum. If you guys want all of our NFL tools, 3 free days, take advantage of that. Links in the description. Tyler can throw it in the chat. Be a great time to do it too. You want to follow along with ownership here, projections, top stack tool. You'll have all the showdown tools for Thursday night football as well. And you can look at all this data heading up to Sunday on top of that. But yeah, links in the description, pin comment, or in the chat as well. Take advantage of it. 3 free days, no strings attached. Pulling up running backs. Ramondre Stevenson. A lot of touches last game, Neil, in a blowout win against the Detroit Lions, who up until that point were the highest scoring team in the league. A lot of people were pointing out that they weren't playing in a dome for the first time, but Stevenson with Damian Harris out, rightfully getting a lot of ownership, 27 touches last game. That is a lot.
Yeah, it's a great spot for Ramondre Stevenson with no Damian Harris. And now, of course, he right away gets this Browns defense, which is 32nd in terms of rush DVOA, worst in the league against the rush. It's a great spot. The Patriots, of course, have a 19.75 implied team total, so not great from that standpoint. The Patriots just not a great offense, but I think that they're just going to be feeding Ramondre Stevenson. He is the clear featured back this week. Finally, it is Ramondre season, I believe. So I think the ownership is warranted. We have him at 23% projected ownership right now. We have him in the optimal lineup 34.2% of the time based on our simulations. That is crazy. That is such a high number. But he's 6,000. The spot is great. The matchup is great. The opportunity should be great. So yeah, the ownership makes sense for Ramondre Stevenson. I think I'm going to be eating the chalk probably even above the field if the field does come in at 23%.
Did you see Stevenson's snap count last game?
No.
Take a guess.
Like percentage, or I don't know how many snaps they played.
Percentage, just percentage, yeah.
And what I'm trying to remember when
Damian Harris played
pretty early.
Damian Harris played 6 snaps.
Okay,
10%.
So
Damian Harris played 10% of snaps.
Okay, then I will guess 88% for Ramondre.
Very close. 90.
Okay, so we played exactly every snap that I guess that shouldn't be. That's how it's been in the past too. Either one of them is in on every down essentially. So
yeah, but we all, and I don't know. I'm assuming, I don't know if Ty Montgomery was inactive or not, or if he's. Hold on. Oh, he's on the IR. I'm sorry, right?
Yeah. Okay. That's what I
So
thought.
he's on the IR. He's not expected to be activated this week. Okay. I do think this stuff is kind of important. Who else? Pierre Strong was inactive against the Lions.
Yeah, maybe
my guess is he's
Pierre
active
Strong
this week.
Yeah, probably.
I think 90% of snaps is a lot.
Did you say JJ Taylor? I'm just looking through our boom bust tool at this point. He's another running back listed for the Pats. Yeah, but I don't think any of these guys is cutting into Ramondre's workload much.
No, not at all. All I'm saying is I don't think he plays 100% of snaps.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Either. Yeah, it'd be unlikely.
But very interesting though. He was out there, not just on every running play that Harris wasn't out there. Stevenson was out there for every play that Harris wasn't out there.
They trust
pretty
him.
important. Yeah, pretty important. So I get it. I think he has pass catching upside here. All of it makes sense. What's his price?
6,000.
6K. Yeah.
On DraftKings.
Yeah. So even with a low total, totally makes sense. He's going to be out there a ton. What are you doing with guys like Barkley against Baltimore at home? They're 5-point dogs. He's getting a lot of ownership. Fournette at Pittsburgh. They're 8.5 point favorites, depending on where you look. And then we can talk. Let's talk about them first. Then I want to get into some of these rookies.
Yeah, Barkley looks a little bit over-owned in our boom bust tool, coming in at 19% ownership, 15% optimal, 11% probability of booming. He's 7,700. It's tough. It's been tough for me to pay up for running backs a ton, just because even this week. So I was really high on Dalvin Cook. I played a lot of Dalvin Cook this week. He played great, but then there were a number of like $5,500 running backs who were in the same stratosphere. Like they had, near the same fantasy points. Some of them scored more fantasy points than him. So it's kind of tough for me to pay up at running back when there are so many different options. Although at the same time, it might be a little bit more contrarian. And of course, Dalvin Cook had a couple more opportunities where he could have put up a lot more fantasy points really quickly with goal line touchdowns, that kind of stuff. So I don't know, maybe I'll pay up for some running backs here just because I think it will be kind of contrarian given all of the cheap options. And of course, all of these guys do still have that, that ability to boom. And it wouldn't be that shocking to see Saquon Barkley put up 35 fantasy points, and it might be a need to have it spot. So I'll have some Saquon. I don't think I'm going to get to 19% if the field is getting there. I guess really, that's what the boom bust tool tells us is what is the likelihood of this happening, that he does put up that need to have it score. And we've got that at 15% and we have him own 19%. So I'm sure I'll be under the field on Saquon. And then Leonard Fournette. Yeah, we've got him at 16% ownership, 13% chance of being optimal. I'm probably not going to be getting to where the field is on Leonard Fournette either, just because of how many options there are, especially with Eno Benjamin now probably opening up. We don't know for sure what James Conner's status is going to be, but I think it's leaning towards doubtful for me with James Conner. So I think Eno Benjamin's probably going to be in play. The Bucs are playing the Steelers, so I guess it's a pretty good spot. They should be able to crush the Steelers. Should be a running game script. I see why the field wants to get to Leonard Fournette, but it's looking like both Leonard Fournette and Saquon Barkley, the field is just getting there a little bit more than we think they should based on our sims.
Yeah, I feel Connor, what Kingsbury said was weird. He said that Connor checked out okay after injuring his ribs in the first half. And then he said, we're checking everything out. It's something in the rib area, and they're just being very cautious with him right now. And that they tentatively plan on having him active. So I don't know.
Okay.
That's
but then they're trying out Corey Clement and trying out some other running backs, which is why I was leaning towards maybe they're doubtful. But I guess that if he's saying that they're leaning towards him playing, then that's probably a better indicator.
That's a huge spot though for this week because Darrell Williams also left that game with a knee injury.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it comes down to who is starting the game. I'm going to like it. If it is James Conner, I'll probably have some James Conner. But if James Conner is out, then I think Eno Benjamin with both Conner and Darrell out, I think it's a smash spot for Eno Benjamin potentially.
What do you want to do with Ken Walker against Arizona in a high total game now that Rashad Penny's done for the year?
I want to play him. Ken Walker, 5,400. We have him owned at 14% currently, optimal 30%. So that is some massive positive leverage for Kenneth Walker against the Cardinals. Cardinals defense has not been great at all this year. They are 31st in terms of pass DVOA and 24th in terms of rush DVOA. So the Cardinals are sorry, that's the wrong team. The Cardinals are 27th in terms of pass DVOA, 12th in terms of rush DVOA. So a little bit better against the run, but the Seahawks should be able to move the ball, and that's kind of the most important thing. So Kenneth Walker should have some opportunities to score. At 5,400, the Seahawks have a 24.25 implied total. There's a lot to like about Kenneth Walker here.
I like him. I like Breece Hall. I mean, listen, this Packers team, I definitely had foot in mouth after the Packers were up that big in week one, in London last week. And I'm like, dude, Giants stink. Worst 3-1 team in the league. And then they come back and win. All right, props to the Giants. Maybe I was wrong there, but it's definitely an indictment on the Packers too.
Yeah.
This team does not produce on offense right now. I know they're 7.5-point favorites, and we can get into that, but they do not produce on offense. And their defense has also given up a lot of yards on the ground. And I can't help but think that this is a spot where Breece Hall, against the Packers team that has struggled to defend the run, Breece Hall continues to see more snaps than Michael Carter by a significant amount. I know he got vultured on 2 touchdowns, but one was on a 79-yard reception. He was down at the 1. Carter came in when he was getting a breather. And then a 21-yard run. Carter came in. Breece Hall still found the end zone. We knew that this would happen. We just didn't know when. Sooner or later, Breece Hall is going to be getting even more work than this. So I think at 5,800, he's still a very viable option, who's also very heavily used in the passing game on top of that. He's averaging 6 targets per game.
Yeah, I mean, Breece Hall, great running back. This is exactly what we expected coming into the year. He was going to take over at some point. He's the better runner than Michael Carter. So we kind of knew the Breece Hall workload was coming. We've got him at 13% projected ownership right now with a 6% chance of being optimal. So it doesn't look great in the sims that we run, but I do think that those are always more fragile with players, particularly rookies who, it's kind of a volatile situation. We don't know. Breece Hall could just take on much more of the running work any given week. I think that it's likely that Breece Hall takes on more of the load. So, maybe he has a little bit better opportunity of being in the optimal than the sims would necessarily suggest. So yeah, I think Breece Hall is a fine play. He's probably not somebody that I'm going to be going well over the field on at 5,800 at 13% ownership. It is a solid matchup against the Packers, who are 30th in terms of rush DVOA, but it doesn't necessarily set up as a great game script for Breece Hall. I guess, if he's being targeted plenty, maybe that's fine that they're probably going to lose to the Packers. Yeah, it's not my favorite spot on the board, but I can definitely see why the field wants to get there. There's definitely appeal for Breece Hall.
What do you want to do with this? This might be one of the most interesting spots on the slate because his price has come down. What do you want to do with Jonathan Taylor now that he's 8K? I mean, he started the season 91, then 9,900, 9K, 88, down to 8K against the Jacksonville team that apparently I don't know what happened to them last week at all. Fortunately, I was on the under for Houston points, which still hit, and didn't lay the points on the Colts, on Jacksonville. But I still think Jacksonville's run defense is above average, and they can't get anything going, that offensive line, for Jonathan Taylor. This is, of course, assuming that he's going to play, because Frank Reich said he's optimistic that he will. But does that price point, and I'd say modest ownership at 8K, is that enough for you to go back to Jonathan Taylor, especially knowing that we probably won't have Nyheim Hines either?
Yeah, we've got Taylor at about 10% projected ownership, 9.5% chance of being optimal. That seems about right to me. I mean, he's 8,000. Don't love the matchup with the Jaguars. They're good on defense against both the run and the pass this year. They're top 10 in the league in terms of DVOA per Football Outsiders. So it is a tough spot against the Jaguars, but the Colts are still favored in this game. It should be a good spot. And I don't know that it necessarily even matters for Jonathan Taylor, a running back like him. He's clearly a back that they want to be giving the ball to. So I think, the 10% ownership that the field is getting, it's not, doesn't stand out to me as right or wrong. That's probably about where I want to be with Jonathan Taylor. Even at this $8,000 price tag, I still think, the matchup is tough enough. We don't know exactly what to expect. I think 10% seems about right.
Yeah, it does seem about right. Although, if there was ever a guy to just completely break a slate when everyone's out on him, right? When everyone's out, it's so tough, because if Nyheim Hines doesn't play, you could legitimately see Jonathan Taylor out there, a ton. I don't know.
I kind of want him to fail again and just see the field completely get away from him and then jump on him at that. I mean, we're still projecting for 10% ownership. I was hoping that it would be even lower just given all of the cheaper options, but that's still reasonable ownership. He's a guy that's dropped from like being one of the first couple picks in best ball. I've been doing some of these best ball resurrection on Underdog because it's looking like it's not going to fill. We're going to have some overlay there. And he's going in like the third round now, I think. Maybe I might be exaggerating. It might be like late second, but he's going. I think it is actually probably second round. I think I'm exaggerating, but it seems
you're talking first overall pick in.
Yeah,
he was the first overall pick. Yeah,
exactly. He's people are down on Jonathan Taylor right now, but I guess not enough to get away from him too much in this spot.
I wonder how much they'll use Deion Jackson if Hines remains out and we get Jonathan Taylor in. Philip Lindsay's back on the practice squad as well. All right. Man, there's some really interesting spots here this week. One of them, did you see how many touches Alvin Kamara had last week?
He didn't get the important ones. I know that. He had a lot of touches though. He had a pretty good game despite Taysom.
So, yes, but to me it was almost encouraging because Taysom Hill having 4 touchdowns is 4, right? 3 rushing and
I want to say yeah, I believe that is correct. 3 rushing, 1
3
passing.
rushing and 1 passing. So we'll say 3 2/3. But Alvin Kamara still had 27 fantasy points without a touchdown and 29 touches on the day.
I did not realize 29. I knew it was a lot. I did not realize it was 29.
Of course, Olave went out with, I can't believe they ruled out a touchdown. The concussion after the touchdown.
I actually didn't go back and watch that. I probably need to do that.
You should.
I read about it.
I'm sure people are divided on that. The Saints fans certainly thought it was a touchdown. I had a lot of Olave, so that was cool. Matter of fact, I stacked this game a lot, and it just never got there because I played Andy Dalton in a lot of those, not Taysom Hill.
Yeah,
I had Geno in them too, but it just didn't add up in the ones that I had. But 29 touches, 23 carries, 6 targets, and 6 receptions. He had 100+ rushing yards, almost 100 receiving yards. So Alvin Kamara still being 6,700. Looks like those ribs aren't bothering him anymore. Should be a competitive game. 2-point spread at home against Cincy. I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't interested in him with that type of volume that we just saw. Assuming Andy Dalton starts again, I'd actually prefer that over Winston.
Oh yeah, I think I would too. Yeah, it's a close game. I think that's really what you want for Alvin Kamara. It doesn't really matter what the spread is as long as it's a close game, whether they're favored or not, because he's so involved in the passing game. But you want it to be close so that he's playing all 4 quarters. I like the matchup with the Bengals. I mean, it's a tough defense, 7th against the pass, 11th against the rush, but we're expected 21 implied total for the Saints, 22.5 for the Bengals. So we should have a close game. I think that Kamara, as you say, is going to be extremely involved, and that's the most important thing here. He'll be involved in the passing game. He's involved in the rushing game. I think it's a great spot.
Any, lower owned receivers, running backs stand out to you this week? And by lower on, we could just talk any real single digit options.
Yeah, I mean, if James Conner plays, I'll probably play some James Conner. We have projected for under 5% ownership. That would be interesting. If it's Eno Benjamin, I'll play him too, but my guess is the ownership will be above that number if it is Eno Benjamin. I'm always kind of a sucker for Kareem Hunt. We've got him projected for 2.3% projected ownership in this matchup with the Patriots, who are 28th in the league against the rush. I kind of have some interest in Kareem Hunt. At the top of the board, I see AJ Dillon looks pretty good in the boom bust tool. 8% projected ownership, 12.5% chance of being optimal. He has been less involved every week. I was just looking at a chart earlier of his involvement versus Aaron Jones, and Aaron Jones has been more involved, and AJ Dillon has kind of lost some work, but I kind of think that that's not something that's going to continue. I think they know how talented AJ Dillon is, so I'm willing to jump on there if the field is not going to be there. It's going to be if the field is scared away from his involvement lately, then that's a spot where I'm going to jump in and be over the field on AJ Dillon. Just looking through some of these.
What about Dalvin Cook against Miami?
Yeah, I think I'm more likely to go to the Vikings passing game more so, but I'll probably have some Dalvin Cook. I mean, Dalvin Cook is always in play for me. His price has come up slightly. He was 73 on he's 7,500. I have no idea what that was.
That was
is that
Fat
Charles
Finger by
Barkley
me.
saying that's
Yeah,
terrible?
Oh, okay.
That's exactly what it was. I just accidentally hit a button. I apologize, Neil. That wasn't terrible. My bad.
All right, Tyler, tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Dalvin Cook, 7,500 this week. You know, it's a fair price tag. It's not quite as good of a matchup this week for Dalvin Cook versus Miami. But again, the Vikings should be able to move the ball on this Miami defense. So that is kind of the most important thing. The Vikings do have a 24.25 implied team total. So it's not a bad spot at all for Dalvin Cook. I can see wanting to get there. What do we have his ownership at? Let me check that.
Like 8%.
Yeah, 8% ownership. So he looks way over owned in the boom bust tool. We have him optimal 1.4% of the time. So maybe I'll be a little bit under the field on Dalvin Cook. But you know, not the worst play on the board.
Last one. My guy, Raheem Mostert. He almost had a second touchdown that they called back last game. He's now seen 21 looks and 18 over his last two games. Chase Edmonds is essentially relegated to a, few touches per game role. Raheem Mostert very much seems to be the guy right now.
So I know nothing about this quarterback that the Dolphins are putting in there. Is it Skylar Thompson or something along those?
Yeah, Skylar Thompson was a preseason hero. This guy came in, played the entire game in week 1, looked great. Yeah, but I mean, that's preseason against other backups. I think Teddy could play this week, though.
They've already said that even if Teddy can play, he's going to be backing up Skylar Thompson.
What?
That's the latest that I saw. I mean, I think.
You're right. Look at that. I'm reading it right now.
Yeah. So
what?
So are the Dolphins going to be able to move the ball? I mean, the Vikings defense is pretty bad. 26th in terms of pass DVOA, 23rd in terms of rush DVOA. So they should be able to move the ball even with this backup quarterback in. And maybe that means that Raheem Mostert is just more involved. They want to rush it a little bit more. So it's a little bit of a volatile spot because obviously the Vikings, if he is bad, the Vikings are going to know they're probably going to want to run the ball. So that's going to make it a little bit more tough. But I think Raheem Mostert looks like a decent play. 9% projected ownership, 5% optimal at 5,700. There are worse spots. It's an easy defense to run on. So I don't hate the spot for Raheem Mostert.
All right, let's talk some wide receivers here. Working through all the positions. Then we'll do our favorite segment to wrap this up with top stacks at the end. Top stack tool is updated. We'll take a look over all that, give you our favorite ones, maybe some contrarian stacks along the way as well. Before we do though, shout out to our sponsor Prize Picks. They help us power these shows. And I know a ton of you guys have been over there winning money and thoroughly enjoying it, especially for the non-legal betting states. I know it's been huge for you guys. And those of you that want to get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $120 value, or those of you who enjoy up to $100 first match deposit bonuses. Seriously, it's the best offer that any site has out right now, for fantasy / betting. I know it's mostly deemed fantasy, but we all know the truth, man. You're building lineups with props. There's no juice on either side though. So you're just taking the over or the under 2 through 5. If you hit 5 on your 5-player lineup, your 5-prop lineup, if you hit 5, you're 10xing your entry. Unlike a traditional book, like a DraftKings or a FanDuel or an MGM, unlike any of those, where if you parlay 5 legs and you only hit 4 and you make nothing back, at Prize Picks, you hit 4 and 5, you're getting 2x your entry. If you hit 3, you're still getting money back. Pretty big stuff right there. Not to mention, if you know multiple sports, like say baseball, basketball, and football, and they're all overlapping, which they will be doing within a week, you can play all of them in the same line. You want to do 2 football, a basketball, 2 baseball, however you want to do it. Or you can do the power play where you pick 4, and if you hit 3, you don't make anything. But if you hit 4, you're 10xing. So like I said, take advantage of it. Use all of our free tools. Use our player prop tools. Use OddsShopper. All of that entirely free. Get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $120 value. All you have to do is use the link in the description. Tyler, throw it in the chat for those people watching live right now as well. And up to $100 first match deposit bonus. No brainer, legitimate no brainer. We'll see you over there, prizepicks.com. Oh, and you can download it in the App Store or the Google Play Store as well. All right, wide receivers. Talk to me about Tyler Lockett right now getting the most ownership of any receiver on the slate.
That's interesting. I did not realize that Tyler Lockett was getting, that's a lot. I mean, the matchup is great. We've seen Lockett torched the Cardinals defense before, and the Cardinals defense is atrocious this year. So it makes some sense. They're 27th against the pass. What is Lockett's price tag? Let me pull that up. 5,600. Man, the price is right. The matchup is right. The ownership looks for 18% projected ownership for Tyler Lockett. Honestly, I can't argue with that. It's he's been just crushing. Geno Smith has been doing great. We've got him in the optimal 19% of the time. So he actually looks slightly under-owned by his optimal odds. So I don't know what else you really need to say. He's torched this defense in the past. It's a bad defense. He's 5,600. There's a lot to like here.
If you look at some of those touchdowns, both of them, as a matter of fact, Geno Smith was dropping dimes.
Yeah, he's been great. Nobody saw this coming. Maybe Geno Smith saw it coming. I don't even know if Geno Smith saw it coming.
There's no chance he did. He'll tell you he did, but I don't think so.
Just out of nowhere.
He's looked good.
Yeah.
I mean, he's legitimately looked good. I'm curious to know where he is in fantasy points per game. I know the first 2 weeks, particularly week 2 against San Francisco, was bad, but he's got to be top 10. He's got to be top 10.
Oh yeah.
He
definitely is. I don't know where he is either, but he's definitely top 10.
6th.
Yeah. Did not see that coming. My best ball lineups regret not taking him more. I think I have more Drew Lock than I have Geno Smith because I thought, Drew Lock will probably win that job at some point.
It's crazy, right? I mean, since week 3, he's the QB2. Whew. Amazing stuff.
Is it sustainable? Is still a question. I mean, we're only 5 weeks in, so I don't really know if this is sustainable. Probably not to this extent, but I guess the real question is, to what extent can he maintain what he's been doing?
Sure. I don't think it's sustainable. No. Like QB5 finish. No. But is he going to be DFS relevant until he isn't?
Yeah.
His price isn't coming up to reflect his recent performance either. Not expensive.
Yeah. No, he's in play for sure. Yeah.
And he has good weapons. That's the thing.
He's got Lockett and Metcalf. I don't know. You can really use the tight ends. Noah Fant hasn't done a whole lot. Will Dissly's been a little bit better.
He's had a couple big games. Yeah,
he has. Yeah. But just Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, one of the better receiving duos in the entire NFL. So it might be sustainable. Honestly, I don't know for sure that it's not. I would be surprised if it is, just because he has been in the league for so long. And this is the first time we're seeing this, but who knows?
I want to go a little bit off script here and just ask you, a more kind of broadly base this question on what do you want to do with the pass catchers, the receivers from Kansas City, Buffalo? 54-point total. Diggs is getting ownership. No one else, we'll talk about Tyreek Hill, of course, but no one else really at the wide receiver position is getting a ton of ownership. And it makes sense because with Kansas City right now, you're just blindly throwing darts.
You are. So I'm surprised to see that MVS is getting 10% projected ownership on the main slate. I was hoping that people would just be completely off of the Chiefs because they just have not shown it yet this year. None of the receivers have really done anything at all. But I think I'm willing to go there. I'm probably going to be close to the field on MVS at 10%. We only have him optimal 7.8% of the time, so some negative leverage there. But man, MVS at 4,500 in a matchup where they're going to have to be throwing the ball most likely. It's going to be a close game. There could be fireworks in this game. I'm going to have some interest in MVS. I'll probably be close to the field, probably not above that 10% number, but Juju Smith-Schuster coming in at 6.9% ownership. I caught a lot of flack for liking Juju on the Monday Night Football slate. I recommended Juju. I was big on Juju. And then of course he only had 3 receptions for 30 some yards, but Juju was targeted 8 times. He played the entire game. Like, all of the indicators are there that Juju should have a breakout at some point. Now he's 5,200 at 7% owned in a matchup with the Bills where it should be a close game where, there might be some fireworks. Sign me up for some Juju at 7% ownership.
One of these guys has to, there's got to be a big game from one of these guys.
Yeah, there's got to be spike.
Right? 54-point total. They continue to put up points, but where do they come from every week? They're so spread out. Not of course, not including Travis Kelce. It's remarkable. And they're going to be a pass first team. Of course, they'll involve Clyde Edwards-Helaire and McKinnon into the mix. So there is that, which kind of throws a wrench into the works. But at the same time, I think you're right. Eventually, we're going to see it might be Juju. It's very possible that it's Juju, and it might be MVS. The interesting thing with that, what's Juju's price point?
5,200.
Okay, so he's not that much more than
no.
Okay, so since week 2, here are your target shares for Kansas City. 23% for Kelsey. And did he not have the weirdest? What did he have? 7 for 24 and 4 touchdowns last game?
Yeah, I think 7 for 25 is what I remember, but whatever.
Not sure I've ever seen anything like that.
You have not. I think that that is. So I saw a stat that it was the lowest yardage for a player to put up 4 touchdowns ever. And the second most was like 93 yards. And I feel like it was I don't know if it was Marvin Harrison. I feel like it was a Colts receiver, but I might be misremembering.
Oh, so it wasn't even close.
Not even close. Yeah. As far as scoring 4 touchdowns, the lowest yardage by far.
That's crazy. And it's even more crazier that he had 7 for 24. I mean, he averaged 3.5 yards per reception.
Yeah. Just absolutely nuts and very frustrating for me as somebody who wanted some of these secondary, tertiary receiving options to do something.
Absolutely. Kelsey, 23% target share. Okay. MVS 19. This is since week 2. MVS 19, Juju 19. And then it's, Edwards-Helaire 11, Sky Moore 8, Hardman 8, Noah Gray 6. So it is those 3 guys. You're gonna get you're going to get an MVS or a Juju Smith-Schuster game at some point, given that 19% target share on a team that already throws a lot and is going to have to throw a lot, albeit in a tough matchup this week. I mean, it's got to happen sooner than later.
It's got to. This is such a good offense. They put up so many points. It's been just crazy how much of the offense has been going to Travis Kelce, or how much of the scoring in particular has been going to Travis Kelce. I don't think it's sustainable. I think at some point, Juju and MVS are going to break out. They're going to have their big games. And
Ryan just said in chat, this is crazy, right? That if you were to say that the Chiefs would be 4-1 and neither Valdez-Scantling or Juju have a touchdown this season, you wouldn't really believe it, because you look at this team and you go, that then the offense must just not be working all that well. But
right. It's not just that they're 4-1, it's that they're 4-1 and putting up 30 points a game.
Big time scores. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know this is the first time Mahomes has ever been a home dog since becoming the starter?
I did not know that.
Pretty nuts, right?
Yeah.
Pretty nuts. First time he's ever been a home dog. That game's going to be fun. Flex out this fucking Broncos team from Monday Night Football.
So frustrating watching them every week.
Can you believe they're on Monday night again? It's amazing.
I can't believe it. I get it. I get it why they thought they were going to be exciting. You add Russell Wilson to these weapons. Yeah. We all thought like the Broncos are going to be a competitor, and they just have not been a fun team to watch.
Right. Hindsight's 20/20, of course. Right. I get that. But maybe space it out a little. Don't give us Broncos 5 weeks in a row on prime.
It's a little bit risky, to assume that they're going to be great when we haven't seen them yet.
Right. Yeah. And Hackett's just the worst. All right.
Yeah, yes.
So I'm with you on Kansas City. Do you want to go to some of these Miami pass? Our top stack tool, I don't know if it's accurate right now, that has Miami as like an amazing stack this week.
Really? So Tyreek Hill, we've got at 14% ownership, 16.3% optimal. It holds up in the boom bust tool. And then Jalen Waddle,
I might just be missing something.
Jalen Waddle, 14% optimal, 12% projected ownership. And then just looking at what is the Miami implied team total, 21.25 implied team total, and they're all relatively expensive. I wonder who the tools are assuming is the quarterback.
That's what I was wondering.
Miami,
that's what I was.
Difference.
The total's 20.75 in some spots, like pretty low.
Okay. Yeah, we've got in the boom bust tool. Who do we have at quarterback? We have Teddy in at quarterback in the boom bust tool. So
okay, well
maybe that's a factor. Yeah.
So when we update for that, I would imagine it changes. I'm not saying Teddy's a world beater, but we haven't seen anything from Skylar Thompson yet.
I thought you just said he's a preseason hero.
Yeah, it's the regular season, Neil.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Justin Jefferson, I don't think we need to spend a ton of time here. You already mentioned that you're probably going to attack this passing game. Yeah. I'm with you for sure on that. I think you could do a lot with the passing game, even down to someone like Irv Smith at a weak tight end position.
Yeah, I really like so far routes run. We have Justin Jefferson at 206, Adam Thielen at 206. So I kind of really like Adam Thielen as somebody who just has not gotten the volume so far this year. He's still been playing every down, every passing down. 33 targets on the year to Jefferson's 53. So he's way behind Jefferson in terms of targets, but he's right there in routes run. I have a lot of interest in Adam Thielen as just a guy who hasn't done it yet, but he does that. He'll go weeks without doing much of anything, and then he'll have 3 touchdowns in a game. So I'm going to take some shots and hope that this is one of those spike weeks for Adam Thielen at 5,900. It's a great spot against this Miami defense. 24.25 implied team total for the Vikings. The Dolphins are dead last in terms of pass DVOA, so just as good of a spot as you can possibly hope for. And the Vikings have been passing it more this year. So I have a lot of interest in, yes, starting with Justin Jefferson obviously makes a lot of sense. He is getting the ownership. He's getting 12.3% projected ownership, 13.7% chance of booming, and then only 8.5% chance of being in the optimal lineup according to our sims. So the price tag is steep. 8,900 for Justin Jefferson is really the only negative thing to say about him, along with that ownership, I guess. But I'm still going to be getting there a good amount. I don't know if I'll be above the field. I'll probably be close to the field on Jefferson. My guess is I'll be above the field on Adam Thielen, just because we're not expecting him to get, we're expecting 5% projected ownership.
I love that.
Yeah. 5% ownership at 5,900 for Thielen. It actually in the boom bust tool doesn't look great. We have him the optimal 4.4% of the time. I still think I'm willing to eat that ownership on Adam Thielen just because he has that major spike week potential. I'm probably going to be getting above the field on Thielen. The question is those more secondary, tertiary options using to steal your word
good
for
word.
The Vikings.
Feel free.
It is a good word. Irv Smith has run 125 routes so far this year, 23 targets. He's been pretty involved, and that's after he missed at least one game. I'll go to some Irv Smith. I like that call. He's going to be interesting in those Viking sacks. And then KJ Osborne has actually run 171 routes, so not too far behind Thielen and Jefferson. He hasn't been as productive as maybe we had hoped. 21 targets so far this year, so also behind in that stat. But I think KJ Osborne always has that spike week potential as well. So maybe I'll throw Osborne in a few Viking stacks as well.
I'm really interested in a few of these lower owned receivers. This isn't to say that they're going to grade out particularly well, but the Colts have been so bad that Pittman is now coming in at 3% ownership. That seems low. I get it. I mean, I get it, but see, the Bucs offense has kind of sputtered at times. If you look at this team, the Bucs offense, man, I went back because I was making a betting video for today. Check it out on the Odd Shopper channel. Picks for every game. It'll be up tonight around 6:00. And I was looking because the Steelers are the worst first quarter team in the league. Bucs aren't far behind in terms of offensive scoring in the first quarter. They've been terrible.
Really?
But Mike Evans is 6%. Jacoby Myers against Cleveland. I'm actually interested in that. He's a pretty good receiver. I think you could be getting Mac Jones back. Even last week with Bailey Zappi, you had Myers put up nice numbers. Cleveland's secondary has been suspect, to say the least. T. Higgins at 6%, assuming he's active. Michael Thomas is expected back. He's 2%. So I'm not saying, and I had Thielen in there as well, Neil, but you already got to him. Gabe Davis at 6. I'm not saying you should be in love with all these guys, but many of them are legitimately good receivers, just getting no ownership right now.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And Jacoby Myers, man, Stokastic Tools, darling for years now. He's always looked great in.
And he scored a touchdown last week.
Yeah, he finally is scoring touchdowns now. I think, at 5,300, Jacoby Myers looks pretty great. Pittman, that's an interesting call for sure. 3.9% ownership for an alpha receiver. It's not the best matchup in the world with the Jaguars. They've been pretty good on defense, but I think that Pittman at 3.9% definitely makes a lot of sense. And then, of course, Alec Pierce. Are you going to be doing any Matt Ryan stacks, you think? Because Alec Pierce also 6.2% ownership, 9.3% chance of being in the optimal lineup at 4,300. What do you think of that stack?
I don't really want to do it.
It's a tough stack to really want to do against the Jaguars defense.
I just don't know the touchdown equity there. I'm with you. Pierce looked solid last game. No doubt about that. No doubt. Of course, Pittman saw a whole lot of Patrick Surtain, and that's going to change things. But Pierce looked good. You didn't have Jonathan Taylor. It's just we haven't seen anything from Matt Ryan yet. To see, the whole I think you and I would both agree on one thing. There are certain teams where you go, yeah, it hasn't happened yet, but like with the Chiefs, we were just talking about with the receivers, it hasn't
going
happened
to
yet.
happen for the Chiefs.
Right. But it's going to happen. I'm just having a tough time seeing the path for it to happen for a full out offensive explosion game.
Yeah, that's a good call.
If you can't protect Matt Ryan, and he hasn't been good either.
And Alec Pierce was extremely involved last week, but as you just mentioned, that's without Jonathan Taylor. We don't really know to what extent they're even going to want to be passing the ball with Jonathan Taylor back. So it's, I think I'm with you. I think I'm out on full stacking Indy, but I'll probably have a lot of Pierce and Pittman as one-offs.
Any other receivers we haven't touched on that piqued your interest?
For sure. I mean, Jamar Chase, 4.8% projected ownership, 7.5% chance of being in the optimal lineup, according to our Sims. Rondale Moore at 4,200. He came right back and he was really involved last week. We've got him at 8.4% projected ownership, 18% optimal, one of the more positively leveraged players on the slate for us in Rondale Moore. Chris Godwin, 8.3% projected ownership. We have him the optimal 16% of the time. I'll have some interesting Chris Godwin once again. We loved him last week. He didn't really perform for us, but I'm going to be going right back to Chris Godwin at 6,100. Obviously, you don't really need to say much about Diggs, Kupp. These guys are always in play, especially with that Bills game being in potentially a shootout spot with the Chiefs. We already talked about how much we like the Chiefs' weapons. Same thing applies for the Bills' weapons, to be honest. I'm going to have plenty of Diggs and Gabe Davis and whoever else is in the lineup. If it's Isaiah McKenzie, if it's Khalil Shakir, I'm going to have interest in them as well. I mean, those are the guys who really stick out to me. T. Higgins, as you mentioned, is going to look good if he plays. Don't know if Olavi's going to play.
Man, people were pissed about T. Higgins on Sunday night, huh?
Yes, they were. And I mean, it's fair. And
I was pissed about it too.
Yeah, I had a ton of T. Higgins, so it was a valid thought to be upset about it. I think we've largely covered the wide receivers who stand out to me as really want to play kind of guys.
Dude, it's so crazy. I don't want to belabor the point here because you did talk about him. It's so nuts that T. Higgins can be out and, Hayden Hurst is the one having the big game for the Bengals and by big game, I'm speaking relatively, right. And not Jamar Chase. He still saw 12 targets though, which is, huge. And did you see his statement too, talking about how he's been double teamed? He's like, I'm double teamed all the time, every game. And he goes, I can appreciate the respect, but it's frustrating. And I got to find ways to make it work. And then I'd seen another comment that was really interesting, not from him, but from an analyst. Might have just been a random person. No, they're like a football guy on Twitter.
Okay.
But talking about how there's a lot of other guys that get double teamed, like a Cooper Kupp or plenty of other guys.
Justin Jefferson.
Jefferson was the guy they were talking about. Thank you. Yeah. And he goes, but they find ways to scheme him open. Kevin O'Connell,
right.
Like they find ways to get him open. With Jamar Chase, Zach Taylor's done none of that really.
Right.
And sure, some of it's on Higgins, some of it's on the offensive line, some of it's on Burrow. But if Jamar Chase is out there and you have no T. Higgins, how are you not finding ways to get? And I'm not talking about end arounds. I'm talking about getting him the football. So if Higgins is out, you probably even in a subpar matchup, but not horrible, have to go back to Chase.
Yeah, I think they need to be. I'm sure they're going to be trying to get the ball to Chase. If they're not, then yes, Zach Taylor probably needs to be fired. Chase is obviously their best playmaker. So with Higgins out in particular, I mean, it's a little bit closer with Higgins in my opinion, but with Higgins out, he's clearly their best playmaker. So they need to be getting Jamar Chase involved. And we're kind of making the assumption that they're going to be at least trying, which is why he looks great in the tools at under 5% ownership.
Yeah. And you know what? If you're a betting man or woman, keep an eye on what that longest reception prop looks like for Higgins, because the under's been crushing. They just don't let him get downfield. They don't let him get downfield. And if that's the case, it's going to make life very tough for Bro. It's also going to make Hayden Hurst look damn good as well. Got to get the ball to somebody.
Lafayette,
All right, tight end.
Can Can we just answer this question from Sandra Montoya? Because I want to go over this with you, because I only have one remaining survivor team in my pool, and I really want to win this week. Sandra Montoya asked, Lofty, can you give me your top 3 teams to win week 6 for a survivor pool?
All right.
Thoughts there?
Yeah, here's what I would do. I haven't looked at any survivor stuff yet. Ben Rasa does a survivor picks video on the Odd Shopper. I trust Ben more than anybody when it comes to betting. Ben Rasa or survivor pools does this every single week, and it should already be up. I would assume it's up either today or tomorrow. Take advantage of that. I think we have articles on it too, Neil, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah,
we probably, I mean, that's a good call to go to Ben Ross. I'm just looking at the implied team totals. I mean, the Rams have a more than 10-point spread on the Panthers. I sort of hate that Matt Rule was fired from the perspective of taking the Rams in a survivor pool, just because it adds a little bit more volatility. I think that, even though I think it's probably, generally bad for the coach to be fired midweek, it probably hurts the team in general. It does add a little bit of volatility, makes it a little bit tougher for me too. Even with the 10-point spread, it makes me a little bit more worried, but I still think the Rams are the pretty clear number 1 with that 10-point spread. I'll point out that the Packers have a 7-point spread with the Jets, so the Packers look pretty good. Or the Bucks also right in there have a 8.5-point spread with the on the Steelers. So I think the Bucks is probably the Rams, the Bucks, the Packers are probably my top 3.
Okay. Yeah. Bucks for me are going to be up there. I can't see them losing this game because I can't see them allowing points.
Yeah. I like that call.
That's what it comes. By the way, I just saw that the Falcons are 7-point dogs against the Bengals next week. I'd be shocked if they are still 7-point dogs against the Bengals next week.
Wait, sorry. Who are the Dolphins?
The Falcons.
The Falcons are 7-point dogs.
Falcons are 5-0 against the spread. They are not playing bad football at all.
That surprises me. I did not realize that they were doing that well against the spread.
They've been dogs in every game. They've won 2 of them outright. And last game, if there wasn't that garbage roughing the passer call, because Tom Brady's going to get them all. And I have nothing against Tom Brady. Good for you, man. If you can get those calls. I have a problem with the way that's officiated. It was the cleanest sack you're ever going to see. And it goes from them getting the ball back to Tom Brady and company getting an automatic first down. They still covered, though. They cover every week. So 7 points. Bengals are not good right now. Anyway, let's talk about tight ends. I did want to let you guys know, too, though. If you don't like hockey, that is okay. NHL strategy show coming up at 2:00, too. So take advantage of this. But even if you do not like hockey, we like free money. And BetMGM, remember that $10 in the 200 promo that I'm sure most of you guys took advantage of, and then it disappeared? Well, they brought it back for hockey. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. All you have to do, and use the link, you got to use the link in the description or the one in chat. Again, if you're watching live, chat. If you're watching after the fact, description. All you have to do is use that link, sign up for the first time, deposit $10, and put that 10 on any team to win. Maybe you got a hometown team. You'll root for them tonight. Maybe you don't care and you just want $200 because you're not doing anything for it. That's all you have to do. The way I see it is when you do something like this, and you got to bet them to win, right? If they lose, doesn't matter. You still get the 200. If they win, you get the 200 and you get your payout on the money. Anything, all that needs to happen is that a goal is scored tonight from any team. It's a lock. It's guaranteed money. You could go on, do this, put your $10 in, bet $10 on any team to win, get your $200, and you could go on a horrible run. You could lose it all. Worst case scenario, literally the downside here is you lose $10. The upside is you could turn the 200 from putting 10 down into 4 or 5 figures, have a monster season by doing nothing but throwing $10 on an NHL team. So forget about what you're betting. Go ahead, get that free money. Stack it up for Thursday Night Football and for week 6 as well. So links in the description and in the chat. Take advantage of it. $10 in the 200. All you got to do is bet any team to win tonight, NHL. All right. Tight ends. Travis Kelce is not the highest owned tight end this week because of that price, actually 7%. Mark Andrews and Higbee coming in as the 2 top guys, Neil.
Makes sense with the price tag. Mark Andrews has been a beast so far this year. We have him, as you said, 12% ownership. We have him at 15% chance of being optimal, 18% chance of booming. So at 7,000, Mark Andrews makes a lot of sense. He is just the clear top option for Lamar Jackson. Hard not to like Mark Andrews. anytime he's on a slate, and particularly at 7,000 is just too cheap for Mark Andrews here in this matchup with the Giants. The Ravens have a 24.75 implied team total. The Giants are 24th against the pass, and Mark Andrews is the number one receiver. So makes a lot of sense to me. Tyler Higbee, 4,600, still super cheap, even though he's been so involved in this Rams offense. The price tag is just not reflecting his role in the offense. 10% projected ownership. We have him optimal 16% of the time. Hard not to have some interest in Tyler Higbee. The Rams have a 25.5 implied team total against the Panthers, who are 22nd against the pass in terms of pass DVOA. So yeah, hard not to like Higbee as well. I think that the ownership kind of makes sense on those top guys. Do you see it any differently?
No, I don't. I think the Rams are in real trouble. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
But you're going to, if you're Tyler Higbee, you're going to keep getting targets. There's no doubt about that, because Allen Robinson is a ghost. I mean,
yeah, has not looked good at all. I've seen people arguing that, he's getting open. He's just they're not throwing the ball when he's open. That has not been what I've seen. I don't think the stats reflect that. I think the stats reflect he's just not getting open.
I would agree. And the target shares on this team are wild. They really are. You think Kansas City's weird? Look at the target shares for the LA Rams this season. You've got obviously Cooper Kupp at 34%. Tyler Higbee's at 25.3. You're talking almost 60% target share between Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee. Almost 60%. And Ben Skoranek is third, and then Allen Robinson. They're at 12 and 11% respectively. There's nobody else.
Just the clear number two option, Tyler Higbee. And it's been kind of a surprise. He did, they loved him 2 years ago. He was very involved 2 years ago. And then last year, just not all that involved at all. And then this year, finally, he's, I guess, back in that alpha, that number two receiver kind of role. Yeah.
Marcos, sorry. Check how many red zone targets Robinson has, Laffy. Dude, I've been talking about that for weeks now.
Yep.
I told you guys last year, I was sprinkling on a Allen Robinson anytime touchdown at plus 380. And he got 2 targets, not in the red zone, in the end zone.
Yeah.
I know that's not lost on me. I've been talking about that. Like 50 before last week, not this game, before week 5 or 4, Allen Robinson, half of his targets were in the red zone, half of them. So there's that, but he's a straight bust without a touchdown. And that's not very fun. But yeah, I've been talking about that, man. That's one of the big things that stands out. You go, all right, he's getting them, but what's he doing with them? He's got 4 targets inside the 5. That's the most on the team. And he's got 8 inside the 20, but he's got no targets anywhere else, Neil.
Yeah. I mean, he's maybe he'll, have a better second half of the year, but I don't think that we've seen any indication that he's going to have he probably will be better going forward, but I don't think he's going to be living up to that, 50th pick in best ball kind of spot that he was going. I don't think that he's going to be a great every week kind of play. He'll have his spike weeks here and there, I would guess, but there's no way, just based on what we've seen, they're going away from him. They're not really interested in getting Allen Robinson overly involved, and they're finding Tyler Higbee open plenty. So I don't really see him coming along as a receiver that is going to be like a must start every week in season long, or a great option every week in DFS. I think that is probably not going to happen at this point.
I got a fun question for you before we wrap it up with top stacks. Let's assume that Cameron Brate is back. Would you be willing to play Cade Otton at 2% ownership at $2,900? Very involved last game. Of course, Cameron Brate was out, understandable, but I'm wondering if you're going to start seeing more Cade Otton anyway in this offense.
Not somebody I had thought about, to be honest. So probably
94% of snaps last week.
Yeah, but if Cam Brate is back, I don't think the snaps will be there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do want to get him more involved. Maybe it's his time, but it's I can see the merit to it in a Millie Maker contest, especially in a large field GPP. Sure, I think if you want to make that guess that they want to involve Cade Otton more, makes some sense to me. But probably not one of my top priorities at tight end.
You want to talk top stacks here?
Sure.
All right. And hey, by the way, over 100 likes. We only asked to start the show. Appreciate you guys. Helps us a ton here. So we're well over 100, doing big things. You guys took the initiative, and it's appreciated on this side. All right. So top stacks. I want to overlook Miami for a second and just talk about Buffalo and Kansas City having the two highest, Buffalo and the Rams having the two highest top stack probabilities. I can't buy into this Rams team right now. Tell me why I'm wrong, Neil.
Because all of the volume goes to Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee. So even if the Rams offense isn't great, if you have a condensed tree like that, if you have a condensed passing tree, it's going to look better for the stack. So I think that's why they have that high of a top stack odd, is just because we have so much of the volume going to Higbee and Kupp. It's a pretty easy stack to make work.
Yeah, no, look, you're right. And I've always advocated for, condensed offenses in spots like this. So far be it for me to be like, I don't like the Rams. Their offense is just stinking the joint up right now. And
it is.
I know they've faced some good pass rushes with Dallas, and the week before that was the San Francisco 49ers. They shouldn't have as tough a time. But yeah, that is what it comes down to. It's not that they produced well, like you said. It's just that the concentration of targets is so tight between Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee that you know exactly where you're going with this.
Yeah, and I just reading what the top stack tool legend says, because I was thinking, wait, am I wrong here? Am I misreading what top stack? It says the probability that the quarterback plus receiver combo will be the highest scoring of the week. I average the probabilities for top scoring with one receiver and two receivers together. So it's probably just because it is those two receivers being so involved is why we're seeing the Rams having such high odds.
Makes sense. What's Stafford priced at?
Good question. Let's see here.
62. That's not bad.
Yeah.
He's stunk,
and top stack odds doesn't even factor in salary. We have a top value stack odds column for that as well, where the Rams are still at 8.8%. So
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. So Kupp is very expensive. Higbee's still affordable. Stafford's affordable. He's been sacked 21 times this year, most in the league.
Throwing interceptions left and right. It's always a good spot against the Rams in terms of defenses. Although I liked it better before everybody figured that out. I think early in the year, people didn't want to take defenses against the Rams because they're a good offense. But I think people have finally caught on that turnovers can be had, sacks can be had. There are a lot of ways to score against the Rams.
I'll continue to take teams with good pass rushes against the Rams any day of the week.
Yeah, it just makes sense.
Yeah, Stafford's been pressured on 35% of dropbacks, only 2 interceptions on when he's under pressure, but he's finding ways to turn the ball over no matter what. If you're betting this game, Carolina getting 10.5 with PJ Walker at the helm, what side would you take?
The Carolina side. I think with the spread, I would take the Carolina side.
I would too. Yeah. I would too. Because until the Rams shows that they can produce enough scoring, I think you could see them still win, maybe by a touchdown. But
you can also see the bias right in my hat. PJ Walker being an XFL legend.
Yeah, he was.
But I think he's a capable quarterback.
Yeah, he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I was shocked, dude. The 2 games that he started for his career, they won 37-10 and 20-0.
Did they really? I didn't even realize that.
I was shocked by that.
Yeah.
All right. Where else are we at? Oh, okay. This is what I wanted to ask you. Your favorite stacks here, because we have our ratings for top stacks. Like I said, 3 free days. Anybody interested, just use the link. 3 free days of all of our NFL content, all of our NFL tools, including the top stacks and ownership tools. Are there any spots you really like here that maybe high owned, maybe not high owned, maybe middle of the road, just spots that you think make for great game stacks, team stacks, whatever it may be?
Yeah, so I hate to do this because I'm just sorted by top stack odds. And the ones that came to mind are all, of course, I hadn't even looked at the top stack odds, but the ones that I was going to recommend are all here already. Buffalo clearly looks great against Kansas City, a team that should be able to keep up with them, should be a competitive game throughout. So the Buffalo stack is going to look phenomenal. The Rams we already talked about. And then I was going to say, I like the Vikings against Miami, just not a great pass defense, a great passing offense. I really like Cousins and including Thielen, maybe even doing some stacks without Jefferson in there, maybe a Thielen and Osborne or Thielen and Irv Smith. I think there are different combos you can try out with the Vikings against the Dolphins. And then Arizona is a team that I've been going to as just an under-owned stack. They're getting a little bit more ownership this week, but the matchup is so good against Seattle. Seattle, with the way they've been playing, I would expect them to keep it competitive as well. So I do really like Arizona once again this week against this Seattle defense.
I'm with you. You know what's weird is that Tyler Lockett's salary is going down and Metcalf's is staying at 68. Like he's $1,200 more expensive than Lockett in the same matchup. Probably going to get way less ownership. You know, Arizona stacks with the Metcalf run back over Lockett. Could look real nice this week.
Yeah, it's a good call. Just doing a little bit different with the run back. There are a lot of ways to do it a little bit different. I like that call as well. I mean, Seattle would be interesting to me at really low ownership, but they're coming in at 9.1% projected ownership. So I think that's a little bit steep for me. And then Baltimore also is at the top there. Lamar Jackson, just so good. He puts up so many fantasy points on his own. Skinny stacking with Mark Andrews, I think makes some sense. Maybe is Rashad Bateman? I think he was out last week.
He was out last week. I'm not sure where he's at this week.
Yeah, but you can at least skinny stack with Mark Andrews there.
Where's Metcalf's ownership?
I will also say while you're looking that up, the Bengals looking at 2.3% projected ownership on Joe Burrow. The Bengals we have as the top stack 5.8% of the time. So they're one of the more positively leveraged stacks. If T Higgins is in there, it's a pretty good spot for the Bengals as well. And you could run it back with Kamara.
Yeah, for sure. I like that a lot, especially if Kamara is going to be, I prefer Dalton to start. So Kamara can actually get some pass catching duties.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have no problem. Yeah. Lockett at 18%. We have Metcalf at 10% right now. Lot of games that look pretty interesting here we have the Rams rated pretty high, Buffalo, Seattle, Arizona, Green Bay, but dude, I don't love targeting that offense right now. The only other one, the last one before we head out for the day, send you guys on your way. And Josh and Greg doing an NBA First Look show. Salaries tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern. Be there. The only other spot I want to ask you about, it's gotta be Tampa Bay right now because the ownership on this stack is not egregiously high. I mean, we have the top stack probability a lot lower though than the ownership. We don't have this as the greatest stack out there, and we don't have the value very high on it either. But just looking at it, Brady's 63, Godwin is 61, Fournette 74, and you can use him as we saw in stacks last week. Evans is 7K. I don't know.
Is it Gage pretty inexpensive? I think it's like 4,600, maybe 4,900.
Yeah.
That's
an interesting one because their offense has struggled.
Yeah, 26 implied team total for the Bucks. Yeah, it's interesting. They should be just throttling Pittsburgh. Would you do a Pittsburgh run back at all?
You didn't need one last week with Buffalo.
True. You don't need one.
That's why I don't love this stack, though, is because Buffalo's offense is way better than Tampa's right now in their current form.
Yep.
It feels like it would be kind of tough to get there with Tampa and then a run back because Tampa's defense is so damn good.
I know. That's the conundrum there.
Yeah. It'd be Pickens or Deontay Johnson, but that offense stinks. They have a 16.5 implied total. And Tampa has allowed 10, 3, 12, and 14 points this season, not including that Kansas City game.
Yeah. Pretty hard to be too excited about a Pittsburgh run back. Yeah, you don't need it.
You don't.
Thought I'd ask, but I don't think you need it. We have slight negative leverage on that stack at 7% ownership, 5% top stack odds. But I think it's a fine stack. That's not overwhelming ownership for Tampa Bay. And obviously that 26 implied team total, the points are going to come from somewhere. Could come from the stacks.
Yeah. Gary said, run it back with Kamara and watch Taysom Hill run all of them back. Hey, Neil and I talked about that at the top of the show. It sucks, but in the same breath, Kamara had 29 touches last week. That is insane volume, no matter who you are. Eventually, he's got to punch a couple of those in. Anyway, follow Neil at PlayerQ DFS. What do you got going on for the rest of the week?
So I'm off the rest of the day in terms of content, which is pretty nice. And then tomorrow, I've got my usual Thursday night football. I'll be doing a couple VODs on how I'll be setting up my fantasy cruncher. I'll be doing an article on how I'm approaching the game, and then I'll be doing the deeper dive with Greg for the Thursday night football. And then on Friday, back on the contrary, we've got Alex Santi joining me and Alex Baker on
Nice.
the contrary. Should be a fun show. And I think that's the only thing that I have as far as content on Friday, and then I'll be doing the Saturday strategy show as well with Greg.
Alex has he's up there on the board. Actually.
Oh, is he? Nice.
Yeah, Alex. Yeah, right there. He hit us with some monster super chats last year. Very, very generous man. He is.
Yeah,
so
I like it.
I'll be tuning in. And hey, hit the thumbs up on your way out. Hit me up at Laffy_D on Twitter and check out my picks for every game video on OddsShopper. Takes forever, but I try and get you all the information you need. It'll be up tonight. Thursday night football video, barn burner between Commanders and Bears. That's already up. OddsShopper YouTube channel. Everything you need for sports betting, survivor pools, whatever it is. Shout out to Tyler with the sweet bucket hat for producing this one. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Marathon matchup show. Peace. It's a